Blog Talk Radio.
I appeared before the Congressional Committee to tell what I knew of activities which might lead to an attempt to set up a fascist dictatorship.
The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist.
The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society. And we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings.
President Bush signed a formal agreement that will end the United States as we know it, and he took the step without approval from either the U.S. Congress or the people of the United States.
The secret organizations of the world power elite are no longer secret.
Known as the Bilderberg Group. Could their objective be world domination?
I'm Jim Tucker. I've chased Bilderberg for 30 years. I'll never give up the chase. Bilderberg's plan for the whole world is nothing less than world government.
I'm not comfortable with that at all. Who elected these guys to run the planet?
They are the elitists. They feel they should run the world for their own selfish interests.
Now we can see a new world coming into view. A world in which there is a very real prospect of a new world order.
Bilderberg is making great progress toward a world government, and only an educated, informed public can stop them in their tracks.
David Rockefeller admits in his own memoirs that he wants to destroy the United States. He's a traitor!
It's good to be back at the Council on Foreign Relations. As Pete mentioned, I've been a member for a long time and was actually a director for some period of time. I never mentioned that when I was campaigning for re-election back home in Wyoming.
Let us never tolerate outrageous conspiracy theories.
I need you to move off the property.
Some shots were fired.
There's Bilderbergers right there.
The Trans-Texas Corridor is a vital part because we stop it here in Texas. We stop the new world order right here in Texas.
This thing started here. And to save this country, we kill this damn thing here.
A chance for the President of the United States to carry out a phrase his father used, and that is a new world order.
Your new world order will fall. Humanity will defeat you. The answer to 1984 is 1776.
Now let's set the record straight. There's no argument over the choice between peace and war, but there's only one guaranteed way you can have peace, and you can have it in the next second: surrender. Admittedly, there's a risk in any course we follow other than this, but every lesson of history tells us that the greater risk lies in appeasement, and this is the specter our well-meaning liberal friends refuse to face, that their policy of accommodation is appeasement, and it gives no choice between peace and war. Only between fight or surrender. If we continue to accommodate, continue to back and retreat, eventually we have to face the final demand, the ultimatum. And what then? When Nikita Khrushchev has told his people he knows what our answer will be. He has told them that we're retreating under the pressure of the Cold War, and someday, when the time comes to deliver the final ultimatum, our surrender will be voluntary, because by that time we will have been weakened from within spiritually, morally, and economically. He believes this because from our side he's heard voices pleading for peace at any price, or better rev than death. Or as one commentator put it, he'd rather live on his knees than die on his feet. And therein lies the road to war, because those voices don't speak for the rest of us. You and I know and do not believe that life is so dear and peace so sweet as to be purchased at the price of chains and slavery. If nothing in life is worth dying for, when did this begin? Just in the face of this enemy? Or should Moses have told the children of Israel to live in slavery under the Pharaohs? Should Christ have refused the cross? Should the patriots at Concord Bridge have thrown down their guns and refused to fire the shot heard round the world? The martyrs of history were not fools. And our honored dead, who gave their lives to stop the advance of the Nazis, didn't die in vain. Where then is the road to peace? Well, it's a simple answer after all. You and I have the courage to say to our enemies, there is a price we will not pay, there is a point beyond which they must not advance. Winston Churchill said the destiny of man is not measured by material competitions. When great forces are on the move in the world, we learn we're spirits, not animals. And he said there's something going on in time and space and beyond time and space, which, whether we like it or not, spells duty. You and I have a rendezvous with destiny. We'll preserve for our children this, the last best hope of man on earth, or we'll sentence them to take the last step into 1,000 years of darkness.
All right, my name is Joseph Gibson. It's Sunday evening, 6 p.m. Usually we start at 6:30, but last night everyone paid attention, as I could see from the callers that are on the line and a few people in the chat room, that we moved it up a half an hour to 6 p.m. That's a little bit better, don't you think? This way, and I was supposed to have a guest put on tonight. His name is Chris. He's from Guilford, Connecticut, and we're going to be talking about ADHD, blah, blah, DDD, PP, all these diseases that we have out there, all these disorders that these psychologists have named and that we all supposedly suffer from. I don't know too much about ADHD, or I don't even know, can't even pronounce it properly, to be honest with you. Chris, actually, I spoke with him earlier today, and he told me the proper pronunciation. There's 3 different kinds, or 2 different kinds of the disorder. And 100 years ago, did they have these disorders, or did we just learn about these recently? How did people cope back years ago? Apparently, we did just fine. But today, we have to be on medication for these diseases or these disorders. Today, we have to take vaccination shots. I mean, years ago, we never had to. They say, but kids were out of control. No, they weren't. The families did just fine. Things were a lot better years ago. The families got along. The children went to school. Yeah, there was always a troublemaker. There's always a bad apple in the bunch. That's never going to change, no matter what you do. Just like crime. Crime will always be with us in society. There's always going to be someone who doesn't want to follow the rules or laws that are put down within the community, the state, or the country, or even within your own household. There's always going to be someone who doesn't want to comply with authority, even if it is for their own good. But how did we cope back years ago? Well, you know what? Years ago, we ate healthier. We were breathing cleaner air. We didn't have automobiles taking us here and there. We went to places on horseback or on foot. So you were unable to go from Connecticut to California, or back then there wasn't a Connecticut, but you were unable to travel 3,000 miles in 3 hours, on a jet plane. You just didn't go there. If you did, it was a life-altering change. It was a new way of life, just like how the Pilgrims came here. They began a new life. They didn't travel back and forth to England from this continent back and forth like we do today. They came here, and that's it. This is where they settled. This is where they lived. This is where they died. Today, we travel all around the world in a day. We can watch and see what's happening around the world by turning on our television sets or our computer or our iPhones, our smartphones. We could pick up a cell phone and call anybody around the world. You see, but back then, we did not have that. And back then, we didn't have ADHD. We didn't have all these silly little diagnoses that these psychologists have come up with that probably do not really even exist. It's probably because, in my opinion, through what I know in life and from what I've heard from people, what I've been taught, you know what I think it is? I think it's the food we eat, the air we breathe, the television we watch, the music we listen to. I believe that's what screws us up in the head. And it makes us act a certain way. And these fancy psychologists who read these 1,000 books on how your mind works when it's not really true, on how it really works, come up with these phrases and these terms and these sicknesses to only prescribe you a medication and keep you going to a doctor because it's a money racket. Because what's the root of all evil? You know, that's a very interesting phrase. For the love of money is is the root of all evil. And what do all of us want to chase and need and always want more of? Money. We want money. We want things. We want nice things. Well, that's why we're so screwed up in society today. That's why we're so screwed up amongst ourselves. Joe and Marion last night said, yeah, we all live together, some of us still in the family, but yet we're only planning for our vacation on Friday and our next paycheck so we can get away because we don't want to be with our family, you know? And like I said, we're eating garbage food. We're listening to garbage music that brainwashes you. I mean, I could listen to a song on the radio. And you ever had this problem? You'll hear a song or a jingle on the radio or TV, and it'll be stuck in your head all day. That's subliminal psychological hypnotism. Okay? You hear that song, and it just keeps playing over and over in your head. You hear the jingle all the time in your head. Sometimes it takes a couple days to get out of your head. Hey, listen, there are very smart people out there that know what they're doing. They know how to do things. They know what to put in front of your eyes. They know how to feed you. This has all been studied over and over. That's called eugenics. And it's a very important part of the New World Order to keep you in control. Listen to what I just said. New World Order. Order. We're going to keep you in order, in line. You're going to listen to what we say. By sickness, by hypnotism, by vaccinations, by the food, by your material possessions that you lust and love, by the money you need to survive, you will stay in order. Is it such a bad thing to keep people in line and in order? I mean, after all, just take a drive down your inner city. It's a freaking jungle. They jump out in front of you. They're walking, no respect, cut in front of you in line. People are loud. They're ignorant. Care about you. They don't care about anything about you. Nobody has any courtesy anymore. Is it so bad, the New World Order? Is it so bad? I mean, take it from the perspective of these rich people, these elite people. They look at us like we're scum. Well, are we scum? Do we act like it? We were just talking last night how our families can't even get together with each other. I was telling you how I can't even get my cousin's phone number from a undisclosed family member that I've sent a message to 7 times already. But yet she's logged into her Facebook page. Just ignore me. You know. But smile at me at the family reunion. Then Joe's telling me not to speak my mind. Joe and Mary. Yeah, okay. No. The hell with you people, because you know what? You may deserve the New World Order. That's why these people are doing what they're doing, because you're out of control. You don't know how to act. You don't know how to treat each other. And you don't know how to do the right thing. You need to start waking up. Educate yourselves. Start thinking about the fellow person or your fellow family member who needs help, or your friends, your family, what have you. Start caring about what's around you. That's in my opinion, anyway. Chris, if you're on the line, I hope you press 1. I need to search your number. If you're on the line, please press 1, and I'll get you on. All right, he just pressed 1. This is Chris from Guilford, Connecticut. I told you he was going to come on, so here he is. Chris, hello. Can you hear me?
Hey, Joe. How are you?
I'm doing all right. I told you I was going to do a little introduction. I know I probably pronounced the disorder that you know about or may have wrong, but hey, educate my listeners. The floor is yours. Tell me about your what you got or how you developed it and how you cope with it.
Well, first of all, I just got to correct you on one thing. I'm from Branford, Connecticut, not Guilford.
Okay, all right. Okay, Branford.
See,
sorry.
Branford and Guilford has a little rivalry, so we can't be saying that we're from the other town.
Okay, I understand. That's fine.
Anyway, tonight's topic. Basically, what I wanted to do was I wanted to be able to educate, answer questions that anybody might have on ADD and ADHD.
Okay.
I grew up with it. I am bona fide 100% have ADD. There's a lot of symptoms. There's a lot of things that can be attributed to causes. You hit on a lot of them. First of all, it's more common in boys than girls growing up. They've made that definitive study that it's much more common in boys than girls. They're not sure why, but as far as the causes, they can lead it back to things like maternal smoking, drug use, exposure to certain toxins. Just like you said, like the air we breathe, it was never really something that was diagnosed way back in the day, like you said, because we didn't have these things. We didn't have exposure to video games, to music, to TV. Like you said, there's always a bad apple in the bunch, but now it's just a lot more pronounced. And I feel like maybe not so much when I was a kid about 35 years ago, but more now it's become kind of like a fad. Like a kid is disruptive, or basically a kid just being a kid. The parents want to take him to a doctor and say he's got ADD. It's like an easy fix. But that's just not the case. Sometimes a kid is just being a kid.
Okay. Well, how did you, Chris, not to interrupt you, but how did you figure, how did they come to the conclusion that you had this disorder? How do you know you actually have this?
When I was a child, about 6 years old, my parents, and God bless them, because what I put them through, I can't imagine how they held together. They finally were just like, because I would not pay attention. I couldn't sit down. I was a very smart child. I'm very, very high IQ, but I just could not focus. I couldn't study. I was very disruptive, not maliciously, just wanted to be heard, wanted to be the center of attention. Just couldn't sit down, like times when it's time to sit down, like church or like school. Very fidgety, hyperactive, more hyperactive when I do certain things like eat sugary foods or drink certain juices. When I'm growing up, my parents, only water and milk. That's the only thing I was allowed to drink. Because if I had juice or those sugary drinks that you used to make that families would buy their kids, I would be off the wall. And we're not just talking about a little hyperactivity. We're talking they could not calm me down.
Yeah.
So what they did was they brought me to some doctors, and we're talking internists, psychologists, and I must have gone through 6 or 7 psychologists at Yale. And it turns out what they were doing is they were just studying me with people that planned on being psychologists. So my mother finally...
Lovely. They weren't trying to come up with a solution. Yeah.
No, they were not.
Nice.
I went through all the tests. I went through all the tests, the ink tests, the ink blot tests. What would you do with this? And, all sorts of questions. I really can't remember the individual questions, but they were kids becoming psychologists in school, just studying me for their thesis and their classes. Well, come to find out, my mother didn't know this. So what she did was she contacted St. Raphael's, which is another hospital in the New Haven area. And what they did was they had me on an inpatient program for a week where they studied different kinds of medication. And I was in there with another child around the same age, another boy. They would give us certain kinds of medication, see how we would react in the different kinds of situations, and whether or not we were just children with, high hyperactivity and lots of energy, or if we really did have ADD, ADHD.
Chris,
I did have the ADD.
Okay, all right, okay. How many different types of medications did they actually try before they found one that worked, and what were the side effects?
I was on 3 different medications. The first one was what everybody pretty much knows, Ritalin. And I went up from 5 milligrams to 10 milligrams to 15 to 20 a day. And that did not work. It just didn't settle me down enough. It didn't allow me the ability to concentrate. So then there was a second medication called dizipramine, and that didn't work at all. That was worse than Ritalin. So then around 10 years old, we settled on stuff called Dexedrine, Dexdrine. And that was, and don't take it for what I'm saying, that was like a tranquilizer dart. It literally, I wasn't like a zombie. I was like a normal child, able to sit down, able to calm down without constantly having to be up, moving around, asking questions, being disruptive. Never found something that gave me the ability to study. Even through high school, I was never able to study. Just couldn't do it.
So let me ask you this, Chris, So your disorder is basically a disorder where you cannot pay attention or concentrate on one thing. You have got to be like I got to go here, I got to go here, I got to do this, I got to do that. You have to be disruptive, right? Oh my Lord! Wow.
I'll give you an example, and I still have it to this day, but as an adult. But I know how to manage it better because I do not take. My last day of high school, I stopped taking the medication because I just didn't want to be on medication anymore. But I learned how to, manage it, like in my life. As far as my job, I can't have an inside, sit at the desk, 9 to 5 job. I have to be out running around like I do. That's a part of managing it in your own life. If you cannot be in the office sitting at a desk, then don't do that. Do something else.
You have to be on the go. You got to be on the go all the time.
I have a certain amount of energy that I need to expel. Now, certain side effects of the medication was I did not sleep. I was up all night. I didn't, roam around the house or disrupt or, run around like a crazy man, but I was just fine being in my bed watching TV till 3, 4 in the morning. But it didn't translate to the next day where a normal child that didn't get enough sleep wouldn't be able to function during the day. I was fine. Another side effect was I lost a lot of weight as a child. I was a chubby child, and for a while I lost a significant amount of weight to where my pants were falling off of me, where my parents had to buy me new clothes. Not such a bad thing for a chubby kid, but nonetheless, it's a side effect. But to be honest, the gains sure outweighed, the misfortunes. The fact that I was able to calm down and do my schoolwork. I played sports, so I was able to call on the energy when I needed it. For the kids that do have the ADD and ADHD, the medication is a wonderful thing, and it's not just for the child, but for the parents. There's a lot of parents pulling their hair out, not knowing what to do. I'll give you a perfect example. Not to be long-winded, but I was at a friend's house. They have a 7-year-old boy, and an 11-year-old daughter. Now, this 7-year-old boy, I am convinced that he has ADD. He's running around the house, not so much no respect, but he doesn't listen to adults, and believe me, part of this is the parents' fault because they have allowed the child to swear. They spoil the child, where kids with ADD need structure. They need discipline, 100%, because if they're allowed to go crazy, they're going to do it. Wow. And one particular instance, I was over the house. The kid, the 7-year-old boy, now the daughter does not have it. Yes, she's a rambunctious child, but she does not have it. The 7-year-old boy had a little sleeve of paper cups. It was what he wanted at the time. He had it. The girl came over and took 2 of the paper cups. Now, this is a 2-cent paper cup we're talking about. To me and you, it's nothing. But to this 7-year-old boy, he needed every single one of those paper cups. When the daughter took the 2 paper cups away from him that she wanted to play with, he went absolutely ballistic. I mean, a temper tantrum times 100. Just because he wanted those 2 paper cups. Didn't mean that they didn't mean anything to you or me. To that child, it meant the world. It didn't matter that it was a $1,000 TV or a video game or his favorite toy. It was just a paper cup.
But that could be dangerous. But, okay, that's a child. That could be dangerous as an adult, right?
Yeah, but as an adult, you learn how to manage those things. You know, you got to remember, he is still a kid. But he's got that ADD, so those things are the only things that matter to him. Now, I'll give you an example of how ADD is present in me as an adult. Say I go outside to build a deck or to rebuild a deck. I buy all the wood. I get everything started. I put a few planks on. I'm done for the day. The next day, I decide I wanted to build a birdhouse in the garage. That deck stays out there unbuilt for God knows how long. The birdhouse never gets finished because I stopped doing that to go do laundry. Basically, what I'm talking about is I don't finish things. I have to absolutely set myself to finish each individual task without going on to something else that my mind wanders on at the time.
So you're a procrastinator. You procrastinate.
It's not so much a procrastinator because I want to do different things. It's not that I'm procrastinating because I'm always doing something different. It's that I can't set my mind on the task of finishing one thing at once before I start another.
Okay.
A procrastinator doesn't want to do anything. You know, he'll start something, but then he gets tired of it, so he just stops.
Well, or he puts it off until he feels like doing it.
Puts it off and puts it off. Right. That's not the case for an ADD. What they're doing is they want to start a bunch of 10 different things, but they never seem to get finished because he's always working on something different.
Oh, okay. So it's different.
In other words,
I understand.
My mind is intrigued by something different, you know, as time goes on. Like one day I want to build
You can't concentrate. Yeah, you can't concentrate on one thing for too long because you know what? Your mind is intrigued by something else, and you know what?
Right.
You kind of start something else.
Right, you get bored with that one task while you were totally interested in it for that period of time. Now you get bored with it and you want to start something else.
Wow.
You know, so it's not really procrastinating. It's lack of concentration, like you say.
Okay, Chris. Well, we've identified, obviously, through your experience and through dealing with psychologists and your personal experience, we've been able to identify the problem, and we don't know what causes the problem. So they say anyway. Like you said, common sense is, hey, it's probably the TV, the chemicals, the vaccinations, what have you. Everything that's screwed up in society that's contributing to this while the child is being born and while the mother is carrying this child to birth. Because you are born with this, right, Chris? You don't get it. You don't catch it. It's not a virus, right?
No, it's not a virus. They've identified these things pretty much when kids are 2 to 3 to 4 years old, because you really can't identify it when you're an infant, because you can't interview an infant. You can't study an infant on what they're doing. But things like autism, there wasn't so much autism back in the day. And what are they blaming that on? Vaccinations, other different things. It's the same thing. It's, whether or not, put out as a bad child, like, oh, he's a bad apple, back in the day, instead of it being identified, who knows? I think it's because of the new generation, what society is doing, that more mothers are smoking now. There's more toxins in the food, the antibiotics, the antibiotics, the steroids in the food, different medications that we're taking. There wasn't all that stuff back in the 1920s. More things were pure. Food was fresh. The air was clean.
True.
You know what I mean? There could be a million different things that could be the cause.
And they've studied all these million things. And if anyone else wants to call in or they have a question for Chris, or if you've got an opinion about these types of disorders, you could chime in. The phone number is 657-383-0616. Press 1 and you'll be connected. And if you have, maybe a suggestion for Chris, or if you know anything about this, like I said, this show is archived. Maybe you're going to email me later on, and I'd like to do a show in the future where I advertise this show for quite a few weeks, because, like you said, Chris, a lot of parents are dealing with this problem today. And I do have somebody who wants to ask a question real quick, so I'll put them through. Go ahead. Hello, you're on 336.
Hello.
Hey, how you doing?
This is Bridget. This is Bridget from Reidsville, North Carolina.
Hi, Bridget.
Go ahead. You got a question?
Well, I actually have some experience with ADHD because my daughter was diagnosed with ADHD. Skylar.
Yeah.
She is 14 now, and you can't really tell that she really has it because she's definitely able to sit. And she doesn't necessarily have to be running around. She can sit and play a video game for hours. Her concentration's a lot better. But I remember she was a difficult child to raise. She was very hard. And I got comments from teachers and stuff that would say that they had a hard time with her focus and, with her sitting down.
Mm-hmm.
So they could teach her something. But she's smart, but... as she gets older, I've noticed it's tapered off, and she's not as affected by it. So
do you think by age? Do you think by age that, like Chris said, he's able to manage it now? Chris, do you think through experience and your own person, you're able to deal with it and manage it more and more better as time goes on, or is it progressing and getting worse? I mean, what do you think? I don't understand. I don't understand.
I think as an adult, you're definitely able to manage it better because in every case that I've saw, including my own experience with my own child, it does get better to manage. It does get easier to manage as you become an adult. I mean, they actually, when I was a child, they actually said I had it, but I definitely think it was a misdiagnosis because I hate not being able to finish something. So as an adult, I really, if I start mopping the floor, I really want to finish mopping the floor. If I get interrupted, I get irritated. Now, it's different if I get tired and I decide to sit down and take a break.
Well, I don't think that's Chris. I don't think that's the same what Chris was talking about. He was saying if he starts something, he has to move on to something different, because he can't finish anything. I mean, what do you think, Chris? I mean, like what she's talking about, Bridget.
It's not that I can't finish it. It's that, like Bridget said, for some reason I get interrupted, or something else catches my mind. I'll be building the deck. All of a sudden, I'll look over and say, God, those leaves really got to be raked. So I'll stop doing the deck and I'll go rake the leaves because that's what hits my mind right at the moment. So most people would say, no, you got to finish the deck before you rake the leaves, then you can rake the leaves. Not me. And I guess you could call that a scatterbrain, if for lack of a better word.
Well, how does that handle with your
employment? That's how a lot of projects will get done.
How does that work with your everyday? Like you have a full-time job. You don't have to say where you work, but you're out on the road constantly, and you have to finish your route. Or you have to finish whatever you're doing. So I know what you do for a living, but I'm not going to say it unless you do. But how does that affect your everyday work life? Because, like you said, you get distracted very easily.
Well, I'll tell you, it does affect my my work life because in my work I'm supposed to go in a certain order, and I don't. I do it how I want to do it. And sometimes that could get me in trouble, but it hasn't yet because I can still get it done in a timely fashion. But I am supposed to do it in a certain order, and I don't. I do it differently every day, how I want to do it. And, but I do still have to get it done because, if I want to, pay the bills and eat, I gotta do what I got to do.
Sure, you're able to manage it. I got someone else who wants to chime in. I got someone else, Chris, that wants to call in, too. So go ahead and finish.
A person with ADD is very compulsive. They don't think things out before they do them. They just do them.
Okay. All right, well, I got someone else with a question, or they may have a comment also, Chris, so you can answer him.
Okay.
Like I said, whatever caller calls in, you two got the floor. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I want to try to get everybody in. And like I said, maybe in a couple of months we could do a follow-up show where I can advertise this, and we can, maybe do a 2-hour show on it where we can all have time, because today we're only booked for an hour. So go ahead. This is Connecticut. Go ahead.
Hi. This is Joe in Connecticut. Who is it? Chris on the line?
Yes.
Yeah. Hi, Chris.
Yeah, this is Chris.
Yeah, this is Joe in Connecticut. Yeah, I got some comments and some questions. I don't know too much about what you're talking about, but what you're talking about, I can relate to it, but I don't have the ADHD. I would assume, of course, I'm not a doctor and I can't make that diagnosis, but I'm making it for myself. But I'm very forgetful. I can't remember what I did 30 seconds ago. And unlike you, I can start lots of things and I can leave them and start something else and then go back to it. But there are many things that I start that I stop that I come across again months down the road, and I see I've already done it because I forgot I've done it. I've completed a task. I just can't remember I've completed a task. Now, they say they don't know. I've read a little bit about ADHD and everything, and they say they don't know what causes it or anything like that. And I'm beginning to think by what you're saying is that something is like not firing in your brain, telling you to complete this task before raking those leaves. You see the leaves. You totally forget about your deck, and you're off to the leaves. Now, I guess some people would say that, well, with DNA and RNA, that would be like a single nucleotide polymorphism SNP or something like that from when you were born, and it's hereditary. But I don't believe that either. And my questions to you, those were just my comments. My questions to you is, if you can remember now, how about on Thanksgiving? Do you sit down on Thanksgiving and eat turkey with your family? Do you remember any of that at all when you were younger?
Absolutely.
How did you feel that night or the next day? Were you still off the wall? Were you still doing the same old stuff, or did it seem to be better? Can you remember any of that?
I don't necessarily remember. I do remember that dessert time was my favorite time.
Okay. Well, what I'm getting at then, you see, even with that added sugar and everything, you didn't go off the wall enough to make it a memorable event. So I'm thinking maybe you ate the turkey, which has tryptophan in it, which affected the serotonin in your brain, and that's what I'm getting at.
It's possible, but the thing is, any time that I can remember back those times, I was on medication. I've been on medication. I mean, like I said, I stopped it after high school, but I was on medication at the age of 5. So I really can't remember even close to that far back. I'm remembering times when I was like 10, 11, 12 years old where I'd be sitting at the kids' table, and I was on medication anyway. So I really don't have, like, a case study of what the turkey would have done to my brain, as far as the serotonin and calming me down, whereas the sugar, would have made me hyper. You know what I'm saying? So I guess I can't speak to what you're saying because I don't remember too far back, when I was little.
But I think that's good because you can. I can remember back to where I was 1, maybe 2 years old. I can remember back that far, and so what I'm getting at is, like I just said, that Thanksgiving dinner or that Christmas dinner didn't cause you to go off the wall as much to make to make it a memorable event. So I'm thinking that maybe that might have helped you. But now that you're older, have you tried any? You know how I feel about prescription drugs. Have you tried any herbal remedies of any kind or any herbs themselves to help you?
No, I don't. I mean, if you ask my mother, she'll tell you a different story. I don't see that I have to really control it as much anymore. You know, I try to stay on task with things that I do. I haven't tried any herbal remedies, to answer your question, no. Just because in my own mind, I don't think I need the help that much anymore. I'm not in any kind of schooling, so I don't need to be able to sit still and study. You know, I do get my work done every day.
But you mentioned your job that you have a task you have to follow, and you can't because you do it your own way.
Right, and you know what? Not until right now have I ever attributed that to my ADD. Only because Joe asked me about it is now that I'm thinking about it, I say, yeah, you know what? I do it my own way instead of the way that I'm quote-unquote supposed to.
Well, I've done that throughout my life too, especially when I worked in a steel mill. Because not that my foreman or supervisor was a bad guy, but he didn't know my job. I knew my job, and I could do my job more efficiently and make more money by doing it my way, and still get what he wanted done. But if I did it his way, I wouldn't have made any money. So I can relate to that, but I did it for my own reasons.
Right.
Well,
right.
I think we all believe that in a way. Not to interrupt you guys, because I know you're going back and forth, but we all believe that we could do things our own way, in a certain way, and maybe we all have this disorder in a type of certain way. Because even when I was growing up, I did have attention deficit disorder, but I turned out in a way where I rebelled against society and ended up getting in trouble. But now I've been able to exhume that disability, and you know what I do now is I absorb all the knowledge and information I possibly can, and I throw it back at people, and maybe sometimes in a negative way, because people have criticized me even on this show where I've thrown, and I try to take over, but it is kind of my show. But what I'm trying to say is, I don't mean to put people down. We all have it in a little type of way, but what my point is, Chris, like you said, maybe, like you said, and I said in the beginning, it's this freaking food we're eating, it's the air we're breathing, it's the stuff we're listening to, it's the things we're watching, and it's the things we're taught growing up that's really screwing with our minds.
That's exactly where I was going with the DNA and RNA, and they say it's that you have a single nucleotide polymorphin SNP when you're born and everything. In other words, a genetic problem and everything. But where I was going with that is, toxins and everything in your body will affect your DNA. So therefore, with all the ADHD going around, and as a matter of fact, I think they've lowered the standards recently for ADHD, so now 1 in 68 or something is going to have it. But the toxins are actually damaging people's DNA.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
What do you think about that, Chris?
I can say with absolute positiveness, they attribute it to, like if you look on any website, they'll attribute it to maternal smoking. My mother didn't smoke when she was pregnant. My parents never did any kind of drugs. They were probably the only people in the 60s and 70s that didn't. But they never did any of that stuff. So, I know it's not because of that. But as far as like the food and the toxins and, the antibiotics, the vaccines, the steroids that they're putting in the agriculture and the farm,
GHMO.
the food, the MSG in food, all that stuff. All that stuff that we didn't have back in the day, the sauces and the we've always had spices, but these sauces with preservatives, everything's got preservatives in it now. Back in the the 40s, 50s, 60s, they didn't have the preservatives that they do now. Preservatives are a horrible thing. I do eat a ton of preservatives because almost everything has preservatives in it now. I don't stick to the fresh fruit and vegetables. I'd be lying if I said I did. But, preservatives are a horrible thing. They're awful. And who knows what they've done to people when they're eating. The fast food and it's just, it's all garbage.
But it is garbage.
Knows what they're doing to kids.
And you know how I feel about toxic food and everything, but you're not going to get away with it And going back to where I came from with this, and the DNA and RNA and the toxins which are causing DNA problems. Let's see, where was I going with this? Yeah, the toxins in the food. It's not the toxins in the food that are actually causing the problems. It's when you get a body burden of all these toxins, and your body can't fend it off, because your body is very receptive. All your body wants to do is live and produce, and it has ways to get rid of the toxins that it's getting. The thing is, when it gets so full of those toxins and it can't get rid of them anymore, and it can't store them as fat or anything, that's when it's really going to start to affect you. But there are a number of herbs, that you could try, and you could drink them as tea, even at work. I could name a number of them if you want me to go through them.
Absolutely.
Well, first of all, you have ginseng, which is pretty much safe and everything, and of course, and there's the cure-all, which has been around for years, St. John's wort, So those two are pretty safe. You don't have to worry too much about those. The St. John's wort you could grow in your backyard if you wanted to. Now you got valerian root. You have to be careful with that. If you get it as a tea bag and you just pour hot water over it, you'll be safe. If you grow valerian, you have to know how to make it, but it could make you very sick. And now you have passion flower. Passion flower will actually help you give you a good night's sleep as well.
What about chlorella?
Okay.
What about chlorella? Chlorella.
Well, chlorella would be good for removing toxins from your body and things like that. And if chlorella is coming from the sea, you have to be careful of where you're getting it, because the sea is polluted.
Yeah, true.
So and you've got lavender, and it'll also make your house smell nice. Licorice, real licorice, not anise. When you go to the store and you buy licorice, you're not getting licorice, you're buying anise. So I'm talking about real licorice, and if you have a heart problem, don't do licorice. You got chamomile, which will also be a good tea and help you sleep. And you got lemon balm, which
chamomile calms you down.
What's that?
I've heard that chamomile calms you down.
That's right. And lemon balm, you can grow. Lemon balm is from the mint family. It comes from spearmint and peppermint. It grows all over Connecticut wild, and you eat the leaf, and you think you're eating a lemon or something, and you could grow it and just make tea out of it. And those are some right there, that you could try. Then there's also other things that you could try, because they say these things are going to affect your serotonin or affect your GABA receptors in your brain. Well, you could try GABA. I've tried GABA to help me remember, and lots of people take a gram or more of GABA. GABA is a GABA-aminobutyric acid. Doctors would call it gabapentin or something, but the real name of it is GABA. And when I take it, even if I take 20 milligrams, I get such a headache. And I never get headaches, but that gives me a headache. And I've tried it a half a dozen times in succession, every couple of days, just to make sure it was the GABA that was doing it. And it was doing it, so I stopped taking that, because that is supposed to help the serotonin receptors and everything in your brain. And that's what I was trying to do to help my memory, but it didn't help me. It just gave me a headache.
Well, I wish I had these ideas when I was a kid, instead of being primped and prodded by a million doctors and medicines constantly in my system.
And that's why I'm telling everybody now who's listening, and like Joe asked, well, what can we do to cure, to make ourselves better? I'm not a doctor. I don't know. Everybody should know what I'm saying on these calls. It should be common sense.
Yeah, but you know what? Yeah. Doctor, you can't always trust what a doctor is saying, because a doctor is not going to say, go take a tea bag of chamomile or lavender. They're going to do something to run up the bill and say, all right, let's try this medicine, because if it doesn't work, you're going to come back and spend some more money with me.
That's the name of the game. I said that last night. He wants a paying customer for life.
Mhm. Mhm.
Right, and it's against the law for a doctor to cure you of anything.
Well, I got someone who wants to say hello to Chris. A fan.
All right. I'm going on hold, and I'll shut up.
I bet you I know who it is.
I bet you do too. She's been waiting for a while, but I wanted to get the two other callers on. And you do, Chris. We got about 30 people on the phone lines right now, and a bunch of people in the chat room. So there are people listening to what you have to say. But I got one more person, because we are short on time. We're down to 10 minutes now. And like I said, Chris, hopefully in the future, maybe in a couple months when you get some spare time and you got a couple hours, I'll advertise this ADHD problem. And what we'll do is we'll put together a panel of 4 to 5 people that can talk about this. You know what? Because bringing people knowledge and understanding about this is very, very important. So I'm going to go ahead and connect her.
I want to stop parents from pulling their hair out and, thinking their kid's this horrible child when he's not or she's not, and just try to help them understand a little bit more of what the kid's going
you did a good
through
job.
and what they can do to help them.
Yeah, you did a good job tonight, Chris, because there are a bunch of people listening, and I'm being honest with you. And you know what? This show's archived, and a lot of people go back and they listen later on. Because, got to remember, today's Sunday. A lot of people are watching football, and I'm surprised I got this many people on the phone line right now. But I'll go ahead and put this person through. They really want to get through to say hello. Go ahead, Elizabeth Rondo in Yalesville, Connecticut. You're on the air live. Go ahead.
Hi, Chris.
Hi, Granny.
Well, as far as my memory is excellent. I can remember when I had my tonsils out when I was 7 years old, what I wore, and everything that happened on the operating table. But then,
God bless you.
Yeah. Then as the years go by, what do I end up with? Is a stroke.
I know. I heard about that. And I am so glad that you have
enough
made
of this.
Full recovery.
No,
you could ask
enough
Joe,
of this.
You could ask your granddaughter. I was worried sick about you.
I know. She told me that. But the next day, I was good as new. They couldn't believe it. I said, enough of this nonsense.
That's called God. That's called God and the people like Chris and I who prayed for you and who were up all night worried. And Chris was very worried, too. Red was very worried. We know him by Red, his nickname. As far as family sense goes. The people who don't know him will call him Chris.
I've got his picture right on my mirror in my bedroom.
See,
so I
Chris,
heard.
What do you think? Well, you need to take a drive over there. You need to take a drive over there, Chris. You need to take a drive over there, Chris, and say hello.
well, there's an empty room here, too. It's ready to be occupied, but it's near Bridget. It's near me. I'm sure you don't want to come in my room.
Well, that was good. That was a good ending to the show. That was real good.
Wow.
But anyway, say what you want, Granny. Say what you want to Chris real quick, because we only got a few minutes left.
Yeah, I know. You got to watch your football.
Yes, that's right. Well, I do a
just
show tomorrow.
The Giants are playing the Cowboys tonight, and I know you all are Cowboys fans, but you got a big Giants fan over here, so.
I know.
So am I. I'm a Cowboy fan, but I'd rather talk to Chris.
Hey, that's a good friend right there. Putting a friend first before football, right?
Hey, I'll put Granny before football anytime.
There you go. Hey. But anyway, Granny, go ahead, say goodbye, say hello, whatever you want to say, and Joe too, and Meriden, because we only got 6 minutes left, and whatever you guys want to say, I'll let you. I won't play nothing at the end. You guys can wrap it up.
Okay.
Go ahead,
Chris.
Talk to him.
Well, Chris, let's see now. What else can we talk about? I'm waiting for Bridget to come home.
You'll be waiting a long time.
I want to know how Bridget got a hold of one of my pictures.
I don't know, but she says she's got more. I've got one of these little boards. You can put all pictures in it, but I had a mirror right next to my bed, and that's where your picture is. And you have
that's
a kitty sleeping with you.
She said my picture was in your bedroom now.
Yeah, and you're sleeping with a little kitty that looks like Toby. You know who Toby is.
I know who Toby is.
Yeah.
Toby and Smudgy.
Yep, they're here with me
Animal
now.
lovers. That's good. And for those people that, listen, there are some people that don't know Chris, or you, Granny, for that matter. But anyway, Chris is a friend of a friend, and a lot of people who are listening tonight do know him personally, and that's why it was so important for him to bring that subject out in the open. And Chris, that was really brave of you to talk about yourself this way tonight. I respect that. I really do, and thank you.
And I would never believe it.
I wouldn't either.
Yeah, well, that's, like I said, it's, kids that have AD, they're not always going to be bad kids. They're going to, figure out a way to be good kids. Just like Bridget talked about her daughter. Her daughter at the young age displayed signs of ADD, but now at 14 she's growing out of it. It happens. We figure out ways to manage it. And, my whole thing is basically to give parents hope, to not think that they're a failure, to figure out different ways to, just deal with the children and know that, they're not wrong in what they're doing, and give them different ways to help their kids. Joe gave them all different ways with the T's if they don't want to go the medical route, and just because you do go the medical route, your kid's not going to be a zombie. A lot of the things are going to help them. They just have to, find which avenue is the best for them.
Hey, Chris, and I know all about you. I know who you like, Lady Annabella. She's the one that she's the singer, and I think it was one.
Lady Antebellum.
Yeah, that's it. She's 34 years old, and I know you like her.
Oh yeah.
Yep. And there's a lot of things I know you like.
Well, that's good. Well, you got a fan, Chris, and I'm gonna tell you what. There's a couple other people too that did listen tonight and listen to what you had to say, and you did. And I got a couple instant messages on Facebook actually that said, "Hey, you know what? You brought a lot of attention to this disorder, so that's good." So it was a bonus putting you on, and like I said, in the future, hopefully we can get you on where we can, get together 3 or 4 people on the panel, and you guys could talk about this disorder. Because you know what? A lot of kids do have it today, and these public schools and these doctors are not treating it the right way. Like you said, you went in front of psychologists, medication after medication, and look at you now. You're a good person. A lot of people like you. You're a law-abiding citizen. You've got a full-time career going on out there, like you said. And you know what? You're doing good in life.
But you don't know where he lives. You keep saying Guilford.
Well, I don't know. Well, I didn't know off the top of my head. I thought it was Guilford because when I drove to visit him a couple of years ago, I went through Guilford, and that's why I said Guilford.
Yeah.
But he does. He lives in Brantford.
Was it North Haven at one time?
You went through Guilford to get to me. You took the long way.
I know. I got lost, I remember. But anyway, Chris is a good person. He's a good person in society.
I know he is. I know.
And for him to come on this show and talk about his personal defects is really, that's a character, not a character flaw. That's a character, something that we should really respect, because not many people will talk about themselves like you did tonight, Chris. So I respect you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. But like I said, if I can help, even a few people, deal with their child or deal with themselves, then it was worth it,
Sure.
That's
sure.
Right.
Good for you. Good for you.
Yeah, because
we got one minute left.
When Bridget goes to work, I always say, tell Chris I was asking for him.
She always
did Chris live in North Haven at one time?
Yes, he did.
Yeah, okay.
They just told me 20 seconds. They just told me 20 seconds.
I know you.
So they just told me 20 seconds. They just told me 20 seconds.
Granny,
so they're going to cut us
I
off.
want to say one thing to you. Granny, I want to say one thing to you.
Okay.
I know you have a lot of people up north that are waiting for you to come join them, but if anything ever happens again, you got to know that there's a lot of people down here that want to keep you here. So you need to know that, okay?
That's why I decided to stay a while.
All right, good.
All right, Tuesday night, 6:30 p.m. We'll be back on. Tomorrow's Monday morning quarterback at 1 p.m. We got 30 seconds. Anyone, go ahead, quick.
I'm done.
All right,
I'm good,
Love
Joe.
you.
I just want to say good night to everybody.
Good night.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
In the councils of government, we must guard against the accuracy